Hi everyone. So now we are going to prepare for your chapter 6 and 13 test. Remember, chapter 6 is all about the writing process and chapter 13 is all about written correspondence with people in English. Now, all of the information comes from your Ready to Write book. It is number 2 in the series. You can study this in addition to the handouts that I've given you in class. So if you're ready to ace your test, keep watching this video. So welcome to the review. First, we are going to talk about chapter 6. Chapter 6, remember, is all about the writing process. So there are 3 steps to the writing process, and we're going to start with number 1, which is pre-writing. Remember, pre means before, so pre-writing literally means before writing. The purpose of pre-writing is to gather ideas and organize them. And in class, we talked about 3 or 4 different ways that we can pre-write. Brainstorming, clustering, free writing, and then another type of free writing, which is called blind writing. The second step of the writing process is the actual writing. And the purpose of this step is to take ideas from the pre-writing and put them into sentences and paragraphs. Now, as you are working on this step, this is where you can think about organization. Think about topic sentences, supporting sentences, concluding sentences. You can even think about using transition or signal words like first, second, finally, however, and many others. The third step of the writing process is actually 2, but we split it into 2 different parts. So first, we are going to talk about revision. Revision is where you fix or repair ideas in organization. And I've listed some things you can think about when you are looking at your paragraph. Make sure you have a topic sentence with a clear topic and controlling idea. Make sure your details are clear and understandable and that your sentences are in the right order. Also, make sure you have a concluding sentence that restates the main idea and that it's not a detail. Also, delete any irrelevant sentences that do not belong in the paragraph because they are off topic. After you revise, then you go back in and you edit. Editing is where you fix or repair grammar, spelling, and punctuation. If you remember in class, this is where you paint the house or you move in the furniture. This is where the details occur. So, some things you can think about as you are revising and editing are, is this a complete sentence or a sentence fragment? We'll talk about that in further detail in a moment. Do my subjects and verbs agree? Do I have a singular subject with a singular verb? If not, this is the step where you go back in and change and fix these problems. Do you have capital letters at the beginning of your sentences? Do you end each sentence with a period? And are the words spelled correctly? This is where we can take our translator and check our spelling before we submit our final copy or final draft. Now, sentence fragments. This was in the grammar section of chapter 6. Remember, a sentence fragment is a problem. It's something that we need to repair, something we need to fix. Every complete sentence has a subject, a verb, and a complete thought. If you have a group of words that does not have a subject or a verb or even a complete thought, you have a sentence fragment, and that sentence fragment needs to be fixed. We also looked at chapter 13 in your textbook, and chapter 13 is talking about the different types of written correspondence in English. So first of all, we talked about a business letter, and remember, the business letter has 6 distinct parts. It has the inside address where you include your address as well as the date. It includes the recipient's address, so the name of the person you are sending the letter to. If you don't know their name, you would probably use their job title instead, and then their complete address with street address, city, state if it's in the United States, and zip code. Then the greeting. Remember, with the greeting, we always use a colon at the end. Then the message. Message is where you're going to write a short yet but concise message to your reader where you're asking them for a purpose or you're asking them a question for a reason. Then our 5th section is the closing. Remember, usually we talked about sincerely being a really good, formal, proper closure that would work for any and all business letters. And then in a business letter, you have your signature, which you're actually going to write 2 different times. Once, you will sign your name with your hand and pen, and second, you will type your name. Remember, we talked about typing ensures that the reader, first of all, knows what your name is, because as we know, sometimes you can't read someone's signature, but it also shows that yes, you wrote this letter and here's your signature proving it. We also talked about an academic email. Remember, there are 4 parts to an academic email. The greeting, now this is different from the business letter because as you can see, there is a comma after the greeting. Then the message, which is just as concise as the one in the business letter, the closing, and the signature. Now, both an email and business letter use a formal tone and show respect. For those of you that want more practice with looking at formal tones, you can look on page 186 in your Ready to Write textbook. Both emails and business letters are also always typed. You would never handwrite a business letter, just as you will never handwrite an email. Now, business letters and academic emails are different because a business letter contains the date and addresses of the recipient as well as you, and you can use Mr. or Mrs. in the greeting. In an academic email, you can't use Mr. or Mrs. in the greeting. Remember, we discussed professor or instructor is much more proper, much more polite. And in an academic email, we do not have to write the date or the address. It's simply not needed. Now, on the exam, you will be asked to identify vocabulary from Chapter 6. I'm going to put a link to the Quizlet quiz that we use to practice this vocabulary in the bottom bar below. So if you want to take a look at that Quizlet quiz to practice, you can. You're also going to be asked to identify the difference between academic emails and business letters. You will also be asked how to correct or fix sentence fragments. I have another Quizlet quiz that I'm going to link in the bottom bar below, and if you want more practice on that, you can use those to help you practice. And also on the exam, you will be asked to compose and write either an academic email or a business letter, one or the other. So make sure you study the handout that I've given you in class and the example business letter on page 185 of your Ready to Write textbook. So now you're ready to pass your test. I have put links to all of the Quizlet quizzes and anything that I find is going to be helpful for you to study for the test in this bottom bar below. Make sure you give me a thumbs up if you like these videos and you want me to keep doing more of them. I will see you guys in class and good luck on your test. Bye.